Top of the day, beautiful people. Happy Wednesday. It is February the 8th, 2023, day 328 of year 4 of reading through the books, laws, and prophets. Another 4-year consecutive day count. It is day 1347. Today we pick it back up in a Romance of the Red Star, which is another name for Oahspe. On page 27 with chapter 11. And then Big Blue. I don't know why I don't just have this together. I gotta keep opening it up. I don't even really think about it till I go to read it. Like, seriously. And now came same thing, page, but it's page 26. Page 26, chapter 11. It's running close. The starting page. Although Big Blue is so much bigger than this small little book, the pages are almost running consecutively. Okay. And then we're going to hop over to the Field Guide to the Spirit World, which we didn't get into yesterday. Picking back up in the last chapter, chapter 11. It's called, not releasing. I keep saying releasing. It's freeing. Yeah, freeing the ghost. And Field Guide to the Spirit World on page 244. Father, we thank you for clear vision. All right, beautiful people. Vinette, shalom, supreme bright other, shalom, shalom, Shebrew. Hey, girl, hey, all praises to the Creator. Elijah, peace and blessings. Ema, shalom, shalom. And everybody else already here hanging out in the background in both places, Facebook and YouTube. Top of the day to you. Let's get started right away, y'all. Because we got to finish on time, and I want to make sure we get through 2 books today. All right, so page 27, chapter 11. And now came the long journey across the ocean, and God said, "Great is thy wisdom, O Jehovah, in the divisions of waters. These barriers provide nations against nations a refuge. Thou hast made beyond the waters, and the evil man cannot pursue. But greater still are thy spirit oceans, O Father. The spirits of darkness cannot cross over, and the spirits of newborn people are not contaminated." And we actually read a little bit of this. We got to like the end of the second paragraph. Towards the end of the second paragraph, before I stopped, and we started talking about the Hebrews, the Israelites, and then we literally just took that to the end of the video yesterday. So, but greater still are thy spirit oceans, O Father. The spirits of darkness cannot cross over, and the spirits of newborn people are not contaminated. Thou far-seeing, thou bestower of thrift into the hands of thy gods and thy lords. The master of the ship provided well for the journey, and presently the vessel of fire sped over water, high above the clouds that covered the ocean. Onward to the bleak and desolate west, on the far-off coast, the Lord of the land of Thori, remember Thori is another name for the Americas. The Lord of the land of Thori stood, stationed in a ship, to welcome God to the great west lands. And this was the land called by the angels in aftertime North Gautama, signifying the meeting of nations and the dawn of Cosmon. God came down out of the ship and stood on the land, and a light of ethereal flame descended upon him. And Jehovah spake out of the light, saying, "Hear me, O my son. Hither have I brought thee. This land is the last of the circle, even as Waga is the first." Waga is another name for Pan, or a lot of people know it as the island of Pangaea or whatever, but it's sunken. It was there. It's a real thing. This land is the last of the circle, even as Waga is the first. Behold, when the earth is circumscribed around about with such as choose me, I will come hither with a great awakening light to the souls of men. Clearly, that's happening in our day. We're waking up from the lies of the religions and the strong delusion of not just Christianity, but all of them, right? It's time to grow take responsibility for ourselves, and grow to levels of spirituality that we haven't seen in never in our lifetime, for real, ever. On this land will I finish the dominion of the self-gods and lords on earth. Through thee and thy lords will I now lay the foundation for my kingdoms on this land. On this land will I raise up a people who shall be the fulfilling of that which the Ehims of Wagah profess. For my chosen shall come out boldly against all dominion save mine, even Jehovah. Look over this land, my son, and provide unto the time of Cosmon. My prophets shall foretell thee what shall happen. Thou shalt look upon the mountains and strong standing rocks, and the thought of thy soul shall pierce them, and the impression thereof shall be as a written book before the races of men in that day. Neither shall they know the cause, but they shall come forth in tens of thousands, putting away all self-gods and lords and ancient tyranny for my sake. Thy soul shall be my talisman, deep engraven in the land, water, and mountains. On this land shall not any lord nor god be established by the sword, for it is my land, which I plan for the deliverance of the nations of the earth. The U.S. is considered the great melting pot. Everybody comes here for freedom, right? But it's freedom in more ways than one. And in ways it seem like people get into a deeper bondage, right? You can choose. You really can. Jamia, shalom. Black Royal Family TV. Shalom, shalom. Don, what's good, family? Hannah, shalom, sis. The host of both the ships came and joined in happy reunion after 100 years separation, and God traveled over the land and waters of the great west continent, and all the places that the Lord had searched out to the east and west and north and south, even to the farthest boundary, were recorded in the books of heaven. God said, and thou, my Lord, shall mark out the place whereon shall be founded Jehovah's kingdom on earth, and a record of thy labors shall descend through the lords and gods that come after thee, down to the time of the coming of, down to the time, let me start over. God said, and thou, my Lord, shall mark out the place whereon shall be founded Jehovah's kingdom on earth, and the record of thy labors shall descend through the lords and gods that come after thee, down to the time of the coming light of Cosmon. And the people who shall dwell here till that day shall never be worshippers of any lord or god, such as other people shall worship. Let my seal be put upon this land in the name of Jehovah. So after that time, God and his lords rested from their labors, and the Lord prepared a feast of reunion for all the angels of his dominions. And they assembled and sang and prayed and danced and conversed on things long past and things of the future, reassuring one another of their love and high esteem. When the banquet was ended, God and his traveling hosts, in due ceremony and order, took their leave. Thus God departed. And when the ship of God was raised up under way, the voice of Jehovah came to God, saying, Steer thy ship, my son, around over all the other lands and islands and waters of the earth. Go down to the earth, that thy recording angels may witness the affairs of men and all the places I created on the earth. Thus God visited all the places on land and water, even where man lived not, as well as where he lived, and the angels made a record thereof in the books of heaven. And the time of the journey and the visits of God to the places of earth and her heavens was 1 year and 7 days, and his visit to the Lords was completed. He sent messengers to Horeb, announcing the time of his coming, and he then set sail thereafter. Chapter 12. When it was known in Horeb that God was about to return, Hajjah put all things in readiness for God's reception, and there volunteered 10,000 musicians and 5,000 bearers of banners, 1,000 marshals and officers of the throne, and 100,000 receivers to go part way and meet God and his companions, and Haja granted their prayers, and they started at once, being the most majestic host that had ever yet gone forth in the lower heaven. And when they were of a little way off, God and his ship of fire approached in heavenly splendor. And the marshals met him and laid hold of the haniv of the ship, whereon all the hosts did in like manner, save the musicians who sang and played. When they drew near and entered Horeb, Haja broke down from his high estate, running to meet God as a child would run to its father. And when the multitude saw this, they also broke loose from decorous behavior and gave full vent to their outbursting love for God and his host. And all the people came running as a tumult and rivalry of rejoicing. After a short time, God and Haja turned and walked to the throne, and Haja took his place, and God sat on his right hand, and order reigned. Haja said, "In thy name, O Jehovah, I welcome back thy first God of earth to the kingdom thou hast bestowed upon him and thy sons and daughters. As much as he glorifieth thee by his labor and by his wisdom and love, so do we honor him in thy name and for thy glory." God said, "In thy name, O Jehovah, do I return to these, my loves, that I am returned. I glorify thee, O my Father, that thou hast made me to rejoice is the glory of my life." And now a great light gathered around the throne, so that many could not look thereon. And the power of Jehovah came upon Haja, and the voice spake through him, saying, "This is again thy throne, O my son. Thou shalt finish that which I put upon thee. Thy people shall learn the manner of my kingdoms, and know that even as I make all, so do I rule over all. Hang up thy traveling garb, my son. Dismiss thy traveling host, and resume thy seat on the throne." The voice departed. Haja rose up and stood aside, and the light fell upon God, and he resumed the throne and was held by the multitude in Jehovah's name. God said to Haja, "Because thou hast prospered my kingdom during 1 whole year, thou shalt be my companion and assistant with power and wisdom to superintend all matters that are not direct with my lords. Behold, this day I have set apart as a new day in heaven and earth, because on this day the sun taketh its course for the hidden line, and it shall be called the New Year's Day. And from this time forth it shall be the day of relief watch in Horeb, and ye shall proclaim it throughout heaven and earth to all who serve Jehovah. The kingdom of Horeb has so increased that we must enlarge it, and the council shall be called Moab, and it shall be an assembly over all councils below it, and Moab shall no longer deal with the affairs of individuals, even though they be lords, but it shall have dominion with the cities and kingdoms of heaven, and with judgments and decrees. But in all manner of less degree, this, my son, Haja, shall have dominion. And thou, O Haja, shall build thee a house in Horeb near this throne, and it shall be thy place of and it shall be thy place of business. Chapter 13. Everybody hanging out in the background, it just came in. Shalom, Kenya, much love from China. Hey, girl, hey. Chapter 13, we in Romance of the Red Star, page 29. Follow along in big blue, chapter 13. So God enlarged the place of Horeb and built 1,000 more pillars of fire, enlarging the circle and otherwise making it a place of splendor. And God called together the recorders of heaven and bade them select 100,000 new members for the house of Moab, choosing them from the highest on the list. God said, "In this case, seek not the most learned, nor the most prayerful, but choose ye such as rank highest in the assimilating." God said, "In this case, seek not the most learned, nor the most prayerful, but choose ye such as rank highest in assimilating to Jehovah and to their fellows, for such are the first to become gods and goddesses." That's good, all right? You ain't got to know everything. You ain't got to do everything right. But if your heart is pure and you focused in on Creator, like, I'm going to get this right. I'm going to do it. I know I keep waking up late, but I'm going to get it sooner or later. Just don't give up on me. Get them. I'm going to be the first in line because they got a no-quit spirit, right? Hold on. I love this. I love this book. Hold on. God said, in this case, seek not the most learned, nor the most prayerful, but choose ye such as rank highest in assimilating to Jehovah and to their fellows, for such are the first to become gods and goddesses. Jehovah saith, a strong man may do more good works than a weak one, and yet the latter may stand fairer in my sight. I open the way to the weak and the strong, to the learned and to the unlearned. God said, in all these matters, whatever man or woman hath put away self-desires for self's sake, serving Jehovah by laboring for others, is on the road to wisdom. I like that too. That's good. Audrey, hey girl, hey. God said, in all these matters, whatever man or woman hath put away self-desires for self's sake, serving Jehovah by laboring for others, is on the road to wisdom. And if the records show a sufficient time for growth in such man or woman, whereby these virtues become organic, like it literally becomes a part of you, you just do it now just like you breathe every day without thinking about it. And if the records show a sufficient time for growth in such man or woman, whereby these virtues become organic, then choose ye that person, for of such shall be Moab. Remember, Moab is the counsel. They just said that, right? They just said that. Did I get that right? Hold on. And Moab shall no longer deal with the affairs of individuals, even though they be lords, but it shall have dominion with the cities and kingdoms of heaven, and with judgment and decrees. That's right. Yeah. Moab is the council. At this point, it's called the council of heaven. Because remember, this is going to switch as we go through time, as shenaniganizers come up through the ranks and fall from their places and start being full of self and me, I. This is my show, right? Be careful. I'm going to read this again. God said, in all these matters, whatever man or woman hath put away self-desires for self's sake, serving Jehovah by laboring for others, is on the road to wisdom. And if the records show a sufficient time for growth in such man or woman, whereby these virtues become organic, then choose ye that person, for of such shall be Moab. So the laborers erected walls consisting of pillars of fire and built Moab within, suitable for the members to be seated according to their rank. And the day it was finished, the recorders brought the new members, and they went into the temple to their respective places. And when seated, God spake from the throne, saying, to thee, O Jehovah, have I built the house of Moab in Horeb, and by thy wisdom have I chosen the members thereof. To thee, O Father, I dedicate this temple, and it shall be thy house. Give us of thy light, O Jehovah, that we may not err. A light descended from heaven above and fell upon the members of Moab as a symbol of approval by the archangels. Presently, the new members stood up, and God said, above your heads I make the sign of Jehovah's name, in a circle of fire with the cross lines and the leaf of life. By it are ye sworn to the Father's labor. Hear me then, O my beloved. Ye are henceforth denied individual ministration with mortals, but ye are now become as a unit with many, and as such must labor that your love and wisdom be strong in concert of action. Henceforth ye shall not say, what I can do for this man, or this woman, or that woman, or this child, or that child. For this is individual labor. And on earth such ministration belongeth to the Ashars, and in atmosphere such ministration belongeth to the Asaphs. But ye shall minister to organic communities who are composed of individuals. There are communities for factories, others for education, other for treatment of the sick, and such communities exist both on earth and in heaven. Ye shall divide yourselves into groups for this purpose, and every group shall have its special business in charge. and each group shall stand in Moab as a member of Jehovah's judgment seat. According to your talents shall ye divide and group together, choosing such department wherein each one hath the greatest wisdom and strength. Withdraw then, and thus complete your groups according to the rates my proper officers will assign. Let me just read it over. Getting tongue-tied. Let's go back. Ye shall divide yourselves into groups for this purpose, and every group shall have its special business in charge. And each group shall stand in Moab as one member of Jehovah's judgment seat. According to your talents shall ye divide and group together, choosing such department wherein each one hath the greatest wisdom and strength. Withdraw then, and thus complete your groups according to the rates my proper officers will assign, and then return into Moab, and in Jehovah's name take the seats allotted to you all. That was very specific direction, right? So it ain't no, you won't see this higher council of Moab ministering or overshadowing people in the church. He said, leave that to the lords and gods that are there. Well, leave that to the ashars that are there, right? So when prophecy comes through somebody, especially we see it a lot in the church. Most of us come out of the Christian community. Most of us, not all of us. You will see when somebody is overshadowed and the spirit of prophecy comes upon them, it's the ashar. A lot of times, most of the time, it's not creator, although sometimes they may get a message from creator depending on the state of the church overall as a group, right? But individual prophecy, that's not coming from like a heavenly council, because that's not what they do. Matter of fact, they don't even give message, like their messages is not to the individuals. There's somebody else already in place for that. They give wisdom at a higher level for the overall community. So they may have, for like a city, their information or their wisdom would be for a city, a community. And I want to say even a family, because the smallest, it tells us in here that the smallest community is a family. So it could, and I would say, I guess an individual family, all the way down to the lowest group could be an individual family. You know how you have an individual family, then you have a bigger family composed of brothers and sisters who are now aunts and uncles if they have children, and you have aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, grandparents. It's like a bigger family, right? So you would get information for the overall family through a group that's depending on what information, what wisdom y'all need, depending on which group council has the wisdom for what y'all dealing with, right? And it just kind of, it expands out, right? So you have the individual family, then you have bigger families. The bigger families expand out into the community, to the city, to the state, and so on and so forth. Nation, region, country, yeah, all that good stuff. Right, so they're speaking. They're groups speaking to a group. They're a group, but with one unified voice. So like you have a group speaking, but there's like one spokesman giving the answer for the whole group, like what happens in jury duty, right? So you have the jury, but they have like one spokesperson, but whatever information is coming, everybody has agreed upon this is our answer, to this particular problem. Here's what we have decided, what we're going to judge in this situation, right? This is pretty cool. All right, where we at? I got 5 more minutes before I got to switch over. Let's read this next little chapter. Chapter 14. Just me, blessings. Tabitha. Hey, girl. Hey. All right, chapter 14. We're in the book of Sathantes, or this calls it Cycle of Sathantes. On the second day after Moab was founded, and all the members were in their respective places, Jehovah spake through God, saying, Now have you begun the second resurrection, even as the mortal putteth off the corporal body and is born in spirit, beginning the first resurrection, so are ye, putting away individual self and becoming an organic community, the beginning of the second resurrection. As they of the first are for individual self, so have I bound them close on the face of the earth. As they survived on earth on corporal food, so have I made them to survive in the lowest heaven on atmospheric food. As Moab has risen above these conditions, so will I raise the foundations of the temple of Moab higher from the earth than Horeb, and Horeb shall be the lower house of my kingdom. The voice departed, and God saluted Hajah in the name of Jehovah, and a great light enveloped the temple of Moab, and the Essenars chanted a hymn of praise, after which God arose and stood in the throne of Jehovah, saying, Glory, glory be to Nini, shalom, sis. I thought I lost you for a second. Glory, glory be to Jehovah, boundless and almighty creator. Thou art ever present and full of love, wisdom, and power. Glory, glory to thee forever and ever. Amen. The members of Moab chanted. The swift messengers assumed their respective globes of light and began to ascend in every direction, carrying the word to the exalted heavens that the second resurrection had been founded in the heavens of the earth. And God crowned Hajah as sub-god of Horeb, and he was proclaimed to all the quarters of heaven and earth. And that is where we will pause at the end of chapter 14. We'll pick it back up here tomorrow. So let's hop on over here to the field guide to the spirit world, right? Everybody should have a copy of this. I know I done said it like a billion times. It's a little exaggeration, but I said it a lot while we're reading through here. This has so much wisdom on spiritual growth and understanding the spiritual realm, especially for people who are really searching for truth, no matter what area of life or religion you're coming out of. I'm sure if you're searching for the Creator and searching for truth, you've had some questions about some spiritual happenings that you may not been able to explain, or even your pastors or your leaders been able to really explain or give you a answer that really made any sense in the depths of your shanana, right? Or your spirit. I just like to say fun words like shanana is spirit, if you ain't picked that up by now, right? But Susan has done a wonderful job with breaking down a lot of this. Especially, it really focuses on people who are really having trouble with their spirit, whether they're oppressed, depressed, obsessed. And it's not just for individual people to help themselves get free, but you can also learn and grow. I think since we've been reading this, I think we've all grown in like leaps and bounds, especially when we read it and we identify things happening now in real time. Like we can relate to this, and we're able to finally put pieces together spiritually that make sense, so we can continue growing, right? But this is a great resource. But you can also help people who are looking to get free, that don't really have that much understanding and knowledge, just by your wisdom. And not just this book. I'm sure there are other manuals, but we haven't read them yet. They're out there, but we've just got the privilege to come across Miss Susan B. Martinez first. And while we enjoy some of her wisdom she's learned over the last few decades, right? But you can also help other people get free, right? You can learn this, and it really starts with you, right? Cleaning up your own life, recognizing knowledge, understanding is the key to everything, right? You have to be aware of what's happening first. Mom, shalom, shalom. And this really, I say it really helps you come to your senses a lot, right? So if you have any kind of spiritual things happening to you that you don't quite understand, I would say start here, right? And I really come to love Oahspe with its the relevant wisdom, And if you just tuning in and been hanging out in the background and still really don't know what Oahspe is, if you go Googling, you got to be careful sometime, right? So we're trying to flood the algorithms with truth, with those who've actually read through it and not people that are just here to critique it and haven't taken the time to read through it. They're not diligent students. They're really not, because you can't give a real critique on something unless you've actually spent time going through it line by line, looking into the resources and actually really weighing it unbiasedly, right? And that's why we've taken every day for 6 months to read through it from beginning all the way to the end, line by line, not skipping a thing, right? So we can understand what's really happening here. And we've learned some wonderful things along the way, right? So even if you still cling tight to the Holy Bible, I mean, that's okay, right? But I would say pair it with Oahspe, because Oahspe gives you the history of all the religions before they got started and how the earth was created and how it moves in cycles and develops, but not just the earth, but also our bodies and how we move like in tandem with everything. It literally gives the history of everything that your Bible doesn't. The Bible just kind of picks it up at a certain point, and it just gives you like a couple sentences, maybe a full chapter how things were put together, the earth or whatever, day 1 through 7. But that's even kind of chopped and screwed, especially if you've taken time to read anything else other than the Bible. Just go back to the when ancient Babylon was ruling everything in Rome. You will realize that a lot of their texts have been taken and just updated a little bit from here, a little bit from here. And now today it's called the Holy Bible. But a lot of Christians do not know that, because they're taught, don't read nothing else. You don't need to read nothing else but the Bible. Well, I wish somebody had told me you should probably read something else. You don't have to completely put it away, but go look at other historical documents, historical religions, and you will see that the Bible has borrowed a lot, right? The Bible is literally one of the earliest books. I mean, one of the youngest books on the block, and all of its contents have been taken from older manuscripts, right? If you go back, you just go to Rome, the actual Babylonian ruling days, if you read the Enuma Elish, you will see a lot of the Holy Bible in there, and that document is way older than the Bible, right? But don't stop there. Go back a whole lot further, like 5,000 years back, till you get to the ancient Sumerian text, and you will see that the Enuma Elish was taken from that, right? And the other little places that the Bible fills out was taken from the Sumerian text. So really, you have a regurgitation. What the Holy Bible is a regurgitation of ancient Sumerian texts. And they just throw King James' name on it, and he authorizes his version of the story. But they leave out a lot, right? That's why Christians got a lot of questions, and their prayers is hitting and missing. You want to keep studying, buddy, right? So that's just in case you haven't quite understood what Oahspe is. That's just like a real small summary of the wisdom you'll find. But it's a good starting point. Pair it with your Bible. That's what I would say. If you ain't ready to chuck it, you're not quite sure, pair it. But also check into the references that it gives. Read all the footnotes, right? And you will get more than that. You will get more from doing that than probably what you have ever gotten from anybody's church. Your understanding of spiritual things will so deepen that you are going to grow yourself out of your congregation. Like your clothes will not fit anymore. They will not. Your spiritual clothes will not fit you anymore, because where you sit at leadership church will be insufficient to teach you at this point. You have to go somewhere where you can get some clothes that fit, where understanding and spiritual understanding has been updated in your circle, because you will become the smartest spiritual person in your group when you do this, right? And if you don't move, you can get frustrated. You can start getting pissed off. Why? Because you're lingering around where you don't belong. You no longer fit here. You have to continue growing, right? It's going to grow you, right? So just think about it. Think about it. Nazarene is saying shalom, shalom. All right, y'all. Page 244. The second paragraph down from the top. Literally, hold on. Okay, so when we pause on Monday, it was talking about how people can get possessed. Well, actually, specifically talking about how people can get possessed. And a lot of time, how they get possessed is the key to how you're going to free them. Because a lot of time, I must have did it by mistake yesterday. It's showing us how people can actually get possessed. And it's through like trauma, a jolt, accidents, surgery, something traumatic that happens that opens you up spiritually, right? So that's pretty much what it started talking about. So that's just like a quick recap, right? And it's also talking about like jolts to the head. And sometimes this is why when they were doing exorcisms in a Catholic church, they would take the Bible, and if everything, the holy water, the cross, burn it in on their forehead, wasn't working, they take the Bible and decide just beat them across the head with it. Not that they were trying to like beat them, but they were really trying to help the person get free. They were literally trying to beat the spirit up out of the person, because the spirits, they don't like pain either, right? They're just trying to find somewhere to hang out until they can move on to their next place. But if they're going to be hanging out, don't let them hang out inside your body. They can be around, but they should be growing so they can progress up out of here off this first resurrection level, right? They should continue grow on, because we are to grow and progress on forever. Although we'll shed our physical body, our spirits will never die. But we should always be learning something new, rising higher and higher, right? Okay. Literally, beating the spirit out of its victim was not uncommon in past days. In a Polish ghetto, the deranged spirit inhabiting a sick girl had, in life, been a drunk, beggar, and suicide by drowning. The girl's people sent for the rabbi to release the dybbuk. Remember, the dybbuk is like another word for demon or possessing spirit that Jewish people use. The rabbi proceeded to strike the girl violently. She collapsed, and at the moment, the spirit left through the window. The same method was used in Syria. A child was subject to epileptic fits. When he, quote, felt the spirit come upon him, the sheik struck the child a blow so violent that it made a wound through which the spirit came forth, end quote. Oahspe, 1935, page 207 and page 212. We do not recommend this today, right? You're going to catch a case. You can find yourself in jail if the person die, right? If you deliver them and they bring you up on charges for harming their physical body while you're trying to set their spirit free, you're going to be in some trouble, right? So they were still kind of little, they knew it worked. And they, at that point, they didn't really have any other way to get them free. It's like, we just going to beat them up out of here, right? We just going to beat the devil up out you, right? That's what they did. But you can't do that today. You can't do it. You can go to jail, or some family member going to come back and get you. Maybe this is the genesis of the good old sobering slap. Hold on. That's got to be the title today. A good old sobering slap. Yep, that's going to be our title. Maybe this is the genesis of the good old sobering slap. When one of Henry Hawksworth's altars got out of hand, Dr. Allison, quote, moved swiftly from his chair and struck him lightly on the forehead between his eyes with the open part of his palm. And there's an asterisk. And it says at the bottom, Ralph Allison is one of the few American psychiatrists who began treating cases of MPD. Remember, MPD is multiple personality disorder. Ralph Allison is one of the few American psychiatrists who began treating cases of MPD as possession by spirits. He says he actually was inspired by New Testament readings of Christ casting out demons. I'll go back up. It was a technique discovered by a Swedish doctor, Wickland, and it always forced whatever personality was in control of the body at the time to submerge, end quote. Hawksworth, 1977, page 232. On the serendipitous end of the same spectrum come a few stories of fortuitous dislodging. A woman, bothered by a negative entity, had run her car into a telephone pole, damaging it frightfully and herself somewhat. Yet the accident somehow shook loose her unseen tormentor. She has not heard from him since. S. Smith, 1970b, page 154. Best of all is the story of George, reported in an Associated Press story on February 24th, 1988. The headline read, Brian. Brain wound eliminates man's mental illness. A 22-year-old man identified as George was driven to suicide by his severe washing compulsion, OCD. He put a gun in his mouth and pulled the trigger. Not only did he survive, but he was miraculously cured. The bullet had lodged in the left frontal lobe of his brain, performing a lobotomy. Quote, George is now at college and leading a normal life, end quote. I do not recommend that you do this, right? He just got to the end of his rope and wanted to end it all. But we would say his guardian angel saw fit to make sure he lived. And we're going to go ahead and exercise the spirit, right? A self-lobotomy. Don't ever try that, please. If you're thinking about doing that, please go talk to somebody, right? Come talk to me. I may not know how to help you yet, but we're going to find you somebody that do, right? Just hold on. Just hold on while we're trying to figure this out, y'all. Rappaport, 1989, page 9. Although the psychosurgical lobotomy pretty much went out of style, shock treatment remained in vogue as an answer to the, quote, bad spirits, end quote, of depression and other ills. Since this chapter is devoted to methods of spirit clearing, let us begin with this well-known strategy for accomplishing just that. ECT, excuse me, electroconvulsive therapy. Quote, after falling out of favor for a generation, ECT has returned to favor. Let me start over. Quote, after falling out of favor for a generation, ECT has returned to favor because of the growing recognition of drugs' limitations, end quote. Betty, 2012, page 31. The shock might come unbidden. In another accidental clearing, a psychotic patient came out of a car wreck, quote, completely sane, end quote. Dr. Edith Fiore, 1987, page 12. Then, quote, wondered if the same reason that electroshock therapy sometimes worked was by the same process. The possessing spirit was shocked out of the body, end quote. Dr. Knoll, 1990, page 143, is another who cites similar results like the PTSD victim who had memory gaps, but after ECT, quote, remembered his true name and the details of his life, end quote. Great Spirit, shalom, shalom. Nevertheless, the success rate for ECT seems rather mixed. Reports of satisfactory recovery, Maury, 1988, page 32, Gordon, 1982, page 45, Duke and Hodgman, 1992, pages 147 through 48, barely edge out those in which ECT failed to eliminate further suicide attempts. Cohen et al., 1991, page 54, Wolf, 1986, page 184, Duke and Hodgman, 1992, page 37. And just in case you forgot, when I'm reading these names and the years and the page numbers, these are references to the back of the book and the bibliography. At the back of the book that gives the bibliography for the full reference where all of this information can be found today. I'm gonna stop. That's what keep happening. Okay, yeah, that's what keep happening. Instead of hitting stop for the alarm, I hit snooze. That's what keep happening. Makes amazing wonder. Shalom, sis. Tickler. Hey, girl. Hey. All right. Okay. Even when there is improvement, it may not last very long. Why is that? Although, quote, the possessing entities are made so uncomfortable by shock treatment that they simply give it the body up, end quote, it may only be for a, quote, short time. The entities always stay in readiness to move right back in unguarded moments. End quote. Ebon, 1974, page 70, which is something I also agree with, which you will find in the New Testament. Even though you got some shenanigans, I always say it when I refer to the New Testament now. It's a lot of shenanigans in the New Testament, right? And if you don't realize it, go read the Enuma Elish or go read the Sumerian text, right? And some of the other stuff. And you will quickly see why I say that. But it tells you in there that when a house is clean, like when a spirit is kicked out of the house and the house is swept clean, if the house is not populated with good things and filled, that spirit that's lingering around and watching, it's going to go get 7 spirits that's more wicked than it is, and it's going to come back and take residence up in that house. And the last state of that person will be worse than the first, right? So this is literally the same thing. And this like really happens. They just gave it to you in story parable form. But if you can see it, if somebody, it's like people trying to break free of addictions, right? If you say you have like a drug addiction, right? And you have enough strength to get yourself real, even if you have to go to rehab, right? You can't keep hanging out in the same places where those spirits hang out, or if that's your normal atmosphere, you have to remove yourself from there, go somewhere else and begin to fill your life with other progressing activities, things that's going to keep you free and not get yourself back addicted to those things. Because if you don't break your old habits and your ways of thinking and your activities that led you there, all them spirits that were freed from you are hanging around, that overshadowed you or even possessed you even, and caused you to drive you to do things that will further weaken your aura, your spirit, so more spirits can come in. You're going to be worse off when they call it relapse. Your relapse is going to be a lot worse. And sometimes people relapse multiple times. Like they really want to be free, but they get free and then they find themselves, because either they haven't learned how to deal with the stress that sends them into a whirlwind and throws their emotions out of whack, their common sense, their thinking, their critical thinking skills, how to deal with situations. They haven't learned how to control that. Or the people that they hang around are a whole lot more stronger than they are and pull them back into that same thing, right? So people that constantly, and sometimes, and now I understand it because I know a couple of people that goes through this process, and they actually have drug problems, but they get free, and it's constant. They want to get help, but some people who don't really understand what's happening to them and what's going on, it's like they give up hope on it. It's like, yeah, whatever, you said that last time, or how long you gonna stay out of jail this time, or how long you gonna stay free this time. But if this person doesn't realize that about themselves and change their atmosphere and their behaviors, even though they could look, people can get free sometimes. It's like it happens everywhere, even with people overweight and eating. They could go have surgery, right? Whatever weight loss surgery, they got all different kinds to do it now, right? They could even water fast. But if they don't change their ways of thinking about the situation and their behaviors, and the behaviors at this point, when it becomes an addiction, these are behaviors that are like, it's like taking over, like breathing, like you ain't got to think about it no more. Like you've already given it enough time to develop a mind of its own where it's going to keep itself going. And if you don't realize that, you haven't broken those cycles, you haven't changed the behaviors, you're going to find yourself relapsing again. And all that money you just spent on your surgery to get your body snatched, sis, you're going to be fat again. Or bro, you're going to be fat again. But that's just, that's something that I've learned even in my own waking life and my relation and my love for food, right? It's like, man, I lost like 50 pounds doing my last 40-day fast. All the weight come back. Why? because you didn't change your eating behaviors, right? Somebody said something. I was watching a healthy alternative channel. They just, it's the fasting. It's a channel where they do weight loss by fasting. Mostly it's water fasting. We talk about it quite a few times, so y'all all know this channel. But if not, but they're going through another cycle of fasting. But they don't just fast. They actually educate during the fast so you can change this and so you can recognize your behaviors. Think about triggers. Why are you really eating? Are you hungry? Are you bored? Are you depressed? Are you stressed? You have to realize what triggers you every time you eat. Are you mindless eating? Why are you mindless eating? We're trying to identify those things because it's those things that's causing you to stay in this constant cycle, this fat, skinny cycle. And it has to change up here for it to manifest permanently out here. And so what's Chris' brothers? I forget his name, but the most recent one where he was talking about, anyway, let me just get to the point. He said he had to learn how to eat. I'm gonna try to put his exact words. He had to learn how to eat how skinny people eat. Even though he had lost all the weight, his mind was still the mind of a fat man, right? And eating like a fat man. So when you lose the weight, he said, observe people who are small, people who don't have eating addictions. Observe how they eat, how they're not overly consumed with food, and their whole mindset is different, and they literally eat their food. They choose you got some skinny people eating habits out of whack, right? But somebody who doesn't have like this addiction to food, and lose for now. I'm sorry. We're going to stop in a second. I got to stop here in a couple minutes. He said, look at somebody like that. He said, you got to get wisdom from people who have these particular things under control, right? Small portions. Fat people eat too much, right? You get big plates. Look at them. A lot of times they don't get big plates. Even if they get big plates, they're so disciplined that they don't fill up their plate buffet style, right? If you're trying to lose weight, the buffet is the place you want to stay away from, right? Because they let you keep going back, right? You eat once. You eat small at every sitting, and don't linger over the stove, right? Make the plate, and literally what's sufficient for us is really like a handful of food for real, right? Because food is really, although we enjoy it, we didn't turn food into this whole other thing nowadays where it's literally like it's the center point of everything. Relationships are built on food a lot of times, right? And I wouldn't necessarily say that's a bad thing, but I think you need to have discipline. Otherwise, what was meant to be a blessing will become a curse to you, right? And every time you see family, food gonna be there and you're gonna stay fat. Now you can't control yourself during the holidays because you got to fill this plate up with all this stuff. It's like we had to look at all of these little details. And that's what I really like about this channel. It's really like, they're really like a surgeon, and they use tools to help you really regain control over yourself, especially with food. Fasting is one of the ways, and that's just their expertise. Like this is their what we was talking about in Romance of the Red Star. This is a Moab. This is a council of people, not individuals come, but it's a council of them now, and they come together and they share and they're testing things, and people are actually following advice from the stuff that they've done. They've actually written a book and manuals and how to even prep yourself for fast, whether you're going to do a juice fast or a straight water fast, even a dry fast. Everything, you should choose it not based on your emotions, but what you're trying to accomplish, and they help you break it down in steps. You can't lose all the weight overnight, right? Let's understand it. We got to deal with this first before you lose a pound, because even if you do, it's going to be a fluke for you because you ain't going to be able to maintain it. We want to help you to maintain it. And that's why I absolutely love that channel. It may take a little while. You may have to watch, but I've been following for a few years, right? And I'm still trying to get my mind under control and my relation with food, right? So I'm just like, but that habit and that addiction is no worse than somebody with a crack addiction or heroin addiction or a sex addiction, right? Because it's all driving you to the grave. Some is just going a little bit faster than others, but it's still killing the body, no matter what, right? So nobody's better than anybody else. You have to learn how to get control. Everybody have their different vices, but you have the groups of people who have mastered this, and that's where help and strength comes from, right? But it all, and no matter which addiction it is, it always starts here, right? So if you look at the different groups, even like Alcoholics Anonymous and the different groups, or AHA, a healthy alternative, their main goal, yeah, we're going to fast, we're going to free, we're going to get you there. But first, we have to deal with this. And that's what all these groups deal with first, because this is the problem. Not really this. This is just symptoms of a deeper problem. The extra weight loss is a deeper problem that's going on here. We gotta deal with this. When we can get this under control, everything it'll seem like the weight is gone overnight, because we got control of this, and we know how to maintain the weight loss. We know how to maintain our freedom from bondage, maintain and stay free from drug addictions, right? We don't have to worry about dying of cancers and other type of things, because we couldn't control this, right? When we can't control this, we lose control of the other body functions, and we start doing this all the time, or we start shooting up, all right? Your hands, when you lose control of this, your hands go astray. That's the best way I can put it. When this goes astray, the hands go astray, and they become party to your early death. Your hands become the thing that should be helping you grow and build, light and clean. Now your hands become party to your death, right? Because once this is affected, this goes. The hand actions, they begin to take on a mind of their own. That's the best way to put that right now. But we're going to pause right here, y'all. It has a lot to do with the metabolism, like all of that stuff. Like all of those are bits and pieces of it. But really it all starts here, right? And when you start looking here, you have to address the spirit. So when you start dealing with this, you got to go. We may have to use this as an anchoring point, the brain, the thoughts, the mental mind state. We use that as the anchoring point. But once we get this anchored, we realize before we go any further, we have to deal with the spirit. We got to deal with some internal things, right? So, which is why, like, people who are, and we talked about it before, Oahspe gets into it. People, workers in hospitals, deliverance ministers, you should really not just be skilled in your line of work or your expertise, but you really need to be skilled spiritually, because that's what people need to be whole and set free on all levels. We need the spiritual deliverance as well as the physical. And we were created for those to work in tandem at all times. There should never have been a separation with our spirit. I mean, clearly, y'all get what I'm saying. But they should grow together. They should grow together, just like the spirit of a child as it grows with their body, unless something medical happens where their mental mind state is stunted. If their mental mind state is stunted, their spiritual mindset and state will be stunted as well. Just observe by looking at people. Look at small children. Look at the spirit behind children that they operate in when they're playing, they're innocent, and as they grow, as their body grows, if they're healthy and whole, their spirit will grow too, right? So it's really interesting. Like, since I've been reading Oahspe, just really observing life around me, even in my own household, with looking at my children and the growth and the different levels, it just takes on a whole nother understanding. And I'm just like, wow, every single day. Like, seriously, every single day, I'm amazed. All right, y'all. Truth is around us in plain sight all the time. And the Father has made everything to where it could be a teacher for you if you would allow it, right? So that's it for today, y'all. It is Wednesday. Let me put my marking spot. I just closed it without marking it. Hold on. College, normal life. Nope, all the way down. Yep, right there. Okay. At the bottom of 245. Okay. 245. I always go back at the end of the video because I'll never do it right when I'm done, which I should. It's page 30. 14. All right, beautiful people. It is Wednesday, February the 8th, 2023, day 328 of year 4 of reading through books, laws, and prophets. Another 4-year consecutive day count. It is day 1347. Today we read Oahspe, but we read it out of Romance of the Red Star, which is just another name for Oahspe by a different author, a different group of authors or whatever, or translators. We read chapters 11 through 14, which is pages 27 through 30. And Big Blue follows that same pattern of chapters. I ain't gonna give you the page numbers, just chapter 11 through 14. And then we read a little bit more of the last chapter, which is chapter 11, and Field Guide to the Spirit World, pages 244 to 245. Father, not only do we thank you for clear vision, we thank you for counsels of people to help us to get free. There is, you know what, that whole it's a scripture. I don't remember where it is, but there is safety in and I think I'm screwing it up. I'm gonna just give you the gist of it. There's safety in a multitude of counselors, right? Because when there is a group of counselors together, they can pretty much hit problems from every angle for the most part, right? And you get a more solid answer, more solid wisdom, because a lot more factors from people who have different perspectives from different parts of the world can bring it together and kind of hit places that sometimes individual people at lower levels can't normally reach because they don't have the experience nor the experience or the understanding from different perspectives from different cultures, right? Because some cultures can recognize some things faster. Maybe that's not the right way to say that. There's just different expertise that comes from all over the world where you can take and apply the principles universally, right? But some things is clearly seen in some cultures than they are in others, right? So it's just wisdom from the inside, people inside, and people from the outside looking in, being able to frame proper perspective, right? Being on the outside looking in, we get the wrong, we see what we see, right? And what we saw, we can regurgitate to you, and it is a stated fact. Yes, this is what happened. But coming from the inside, having a little bit more intimate relationship with the people involved and what's really going on and how it's built up over the years, I know that's what you saw, but that ain't what really is happening here, right? So it's good to have a multitude of counselors where you get that inside information and the outside view perspective from looking in and bring it all together to see the bigger picture, right? It's just a better source of wisdom altogether. I'm gonna just say it like that. All right, beautiful people, that is it. Everybody that came in, Bronze, Yoga, Shalom, brother, Auntie. Yeah, see, she late. I know your comment popped up a little while ago. All right. I love y'all. Gloria, shalom, shalom. I will see y'all back here tomorrow. Thank you, Linda. Proverbs 11:14. Thank you. There's wisdom in a multitude of counselors, right? But thank you all for hanging out. I love y'all. I see y'all back here bright and early tomorrow morning, 6:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you. She put the whole scripture. It says, where there is no counsel, the people fail, but in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Thank you. I love the book of Proverbs and Psalms, but yes, I still refer to, like, I grew up on the Bible, right? It still has a special place in my heart, but now I look at it from a perspective of truth and higher understanding from my research and looking at other manuals and stuff. So it's still right up in there, right? There's wisdom that you can't deny. Even though the wisdom has been borrowed from other manuscripts, other people may not be familiar with those older manuscripts. But if it's there, I'll point it out to you, right? If I remember where it's at. All right, y'all, that's it for today. Have a wonderful day, a beautiful day, Miss Hannah. I love y'all. See y'all back here bright and early. Peace.